Ladies and gentlemen, now they are taking us for eunuchs, for poofters, for pansies, for sissies to our faces. It was reported yesterday, being the 3rd of April yesterday and the 4th of April today, in News 24 Business by Carol Payton, highly respected journalist. She's been around for decades and she's always, in my opinion, been a better class of reporter, let's say. I don't know her as an investigative journalist doing especially deep things, but reporting well, yes. Eskom exempted from declaring irregular and fruitless spending in its accounts. Eskom has been exempted from disclosing irregular and fruitless expenditure in its annual financial statements. Treasury says the intervention was not an attempt to evade transparency, but arose from technical accounting issues, upon which we shall not elaborate right now. But you may trust us that there are deep technical things which you possibly wouldn't understand that have led to this turn of events. These may threaten debt covenants between lenders and state-owned entities. Okay, so these, I think, is the wrong word. I think. Well, hang on, let's see. Perhaps I'm misunderstanding whether these is referring to technical accounting issues or whether it should be this referring to the exemption. Eskom has been exempted from disclosing irregular and fruitless expenditure in its annual financial statements in a special government gazette issued by Minister of Finance Enoch Godongwana on Friday. The gazette, which was published on the last day of the financial year, provides Eskom with an exemption from Section 55 2B I1, Roman 1, of the Public Finance Management Act for 2023 and the following 2 years. The applicable section of the Act requires that state entities provide particulars in their annual financial statements and annual reports of any material losses through criminal conduct and any irregular expenditure and fruitless and wasteful expenditure that occurred during the financial year. The Gazette also exempts Eskom from a Treasury regulation that deals with the same requirement. So it's been exempted from two separate legal demands from two different directions, that come from two different directions. Treasury said on Sunday that it had issued the Gazette in response to a letter from Eskom chairperson Mpomagwana. Eskom would still be required to disclose all information required by IFRS. I don't know what IFRS means. International Financial Regulatory System. And general debt listing requirements. In granting the exemption, Godongwana will also set conditions, which will be laid out in a letter to Magwana. The conditions will include: all irregular, fruitless and wasteful expenditure must still be detailed in the Eskom annual report. The annual report, but not the financial statements. Irregular expenditure that occurs through criminal activity or losses must still be disclosed in the financial statements and the annual report. Okay, so it's only fruitless and wasteful expenditure in the financial statements. Criminal activity or losses still in the financial statements, and criminal activity and wasteful what all remains still in the report. While the measure has provoked suspicion and outrage, with the EFF issuing a statement condemning it, the Treasury said it would issue a technical explanation soon to explain the rationale behind the measure, which was not an attempt to evade transparency, but arose from technical accounting issues brought about by the PFMA, the Public Financial Management Act. The terms irregular, wasteful, and fruitless expenditure are not accounting terms. While some irregular expenditure arises from corruption, some arises from contraventions of accounting rules. But because these are key concepts in the PFMA, the Auditor General considers them grounds to qualify audit findings. All right, so why do I say that they are taking us for weaklings to our faces? I say that because, regardless of what the African National Congress government might say about technicalities and wording, and you and I both know that this is going to be abused just as a knife might be stabbed into something up to the hilt of the knife. There is not 1 millimeter of this latitude that is not going to be abused, because that is what they do. I read to the bottom of that article, and nowhere did it clarify these discrepancy in my mind. However, it referred to, at the top there, how covenants, this may break covenants between the lender and the state. Lenders being people such as banks, entities such as banks that have lent money, and entities that have bought Eskom bonds, where Eskom has issued bonds to raise money. How on earth, after the, I beg your pardon, my eyes are a little bit sore, I'm not sure why. It might be the light. I've changed 2 light bulbs to try and improve the lighting in this place a little bit, and perhaps it's that, I don't know. How on earth are any lenders ever going to take Eskom and the government seriously, coming as this does on so many other successive failures over 28, 29, 25, 23 years? Some people will point to the fact that Eskom won the award for the best electricity supplier in the world in 2002. So perhaps in the late 90s and the early 2000s, Eskom was a star. And perhaps the decline did only begin a little bit later on, in which case it happened very quickly. Because you'll recall that it was in 2007 and 2008 that we first began to experience the blackouts that led to the hysteria around Eskom's ability to provide the electricity required, obviously, by the 2010 FIFA World Cup of Soccer. Soccer World Cup of football. If Eskom was a great performer in 2002 and excellent in 2003 and very good in 2004 and good in 2005, it declined spectacularly to be failing by 2007 and 8 and onward to now. And this is kind of why I say they are taking us for weaklings. They ride roughshod over us, knowing that we can do nothing, knowing that we are weak, knowing as they do that when Julius Malema says boo, we burst into tears. Knowing we can change the accounting rules, it can upset all of the pension funds in all of the world. California State Employees Pension Fund, Luxembourg High School Teachers Pension Fund, New Hampshire State Employees Pension Fund that have invested in Eskom. They don't care if it breaks the covenant, if it breaks the contract, if it breaks the standards. And it seems to me that this is what they are doing more and 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 more. And there is very little resistance. There is only capitulation. In advance of the EFF national shutdown of the 20th of March, we saw over and over and over again capitulation. Close your businesses, lock your doors, don't go to work, take the day off. Thank goodness it's a public holiday. Most of the schools won't be open anyway. This was in intelligence reports. This was advised from big parties, big NGOs, big civil society actors. Here they are changing the rules for technical accounting issues. And even if that's true, I'm not going to apologize for this video. I'm not going to say, hey, you know what, guys? As I do, I'm not scum to say I was wrong. But I'm not going to say I was wrong about this video, even if technically I turn out to be wrong. And it is for technical accounting issues, nomenclature, wording, terminology. I'm going to say, I was technically wrong, no problem. But the real point is that they will abuse it, and they will abuse it without conscience, and we will pay the price, and we will do nothing. We'll vote DA and consider ourselves heroes. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling you, it is now time to take active steps. I recorded a video about 3 years ago. I don't know whether it was produced and published or not, in which I quoted a certain professor whose name I forget, who was the subject of an article by Report after publishing some sort of a paper, in which he said that now is the time to resist the government and to resist the state. Ons moet ons nou verset teen die regering. Ons moet ons nou verset teen die staat. And he was right. Not everybody can do all the same. we all understand that there is nobody who deals with this topic in the spirit of arrogance. But if we don't start, for instance, going on to solar, now, we are making a mistake. And I mention solar in this context because, as many of you know, I went off grid even though my system is really too small. It's a good system. 5 kilowatt, 2 times 5.1 kilowatt battery, 5 kilowatt inverter, 2 5.1 kilowatt lithium batteries, 9 360 watt panels. It's nothing to sneeze at. I'm very grateful for it. Very grateful to Mr. Miller for the batteries. I've told you, he bought the batteries for me. But when it comes to the stove and an electric geyser, which I don't have, but I did have, and a toaster at 400 watts, a toaster draws a lot, and a kettle at 2,000 watts, and I think my microwave is 1,800 watts or 1,780, practically 1,800 watts, and air conditioners, and this, and that, and the next thing. It's too small to go properly off grid. But when I was required to get a prepaid meter, knowing well that the local town council would do what they did before and steal all of the money, I went off grid regardless of the inconvenience. Yeah, I'm bragging. Yeah, I'm making myself out to be the hero. But today I'm the hero. Today I was right. You are right in 100 other ways that I'm not right. You don't smoke. You don't drink. You're a good, your children live in your home. Married one woman your whole life. There's no hoogmoedigheid, no haughtiness, no judgment in this. It's just a matter of using one example to illustrate a vital principle. And that is the principle of resisting the state, resisting the government. Because if we do not, they will ride roughshod over us. Because they know us in their minds and in their eyes, no matter how tough we think we are. Daar's nie 'n bang haar op my kop nie, ou maat. Ek vat nie een tree terug nie, ou maat. No matter that we may even be that tough, no matter that we may even be that strong, you may be that strong. But as long as we allow them to abuse us the way that they have, and for instance, on the basis of no evidence, there was no evidence at all, not even any real clues, just claims, just allegations. We shut our businesses on the 20th of March. You may be the toughest guy in the world. You see me get angry, bliksem me. But as a people, as a class, as conservatives, we are being trampled. And this story about the Treasury changing the rules, by the way, there was a quotation there of the EFF, how indignant and what have you they were. There's another, look, I won't take up much of your time. Somebody else has come out and written a scathing letter. One of the, here we go, the Black Business Council, which is a relatively august group. The Black Business Council are not mamparas, as I know them. I haven't had much to do with them, but in my many years of my previous profession, they were, not the yahoos, not the blunderers, not the blithering idiots, not the buffoons. Scathing letter. So there are many people who recognize this for what it is, not just those mamparas at the EFF. this will become an instrument of phenomenal abuse, because that is what they do every single time. If you give them your finger, they take your hand and your arm up to the shoulder. And then they whine and complain that it wasn't their fault, it was yours, you stuck it out too far. And yours because in the past you never ever gave them your arm, and anyway, why can't they have the other arm? You know that's how they reason. You know that this is the African National Congress way. All right, ladies and gentlemen, enough ranting and raving on this subject. We'll speak again soon. Good night, and God bless all of you.